You're listening to the Touch 'em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and on today's episode, we have UFC Vegas 83, Song versus Gutierrez, live this Saturday, December 9th, from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. In the main event, you have a top 15 bantamweight collision between the number 7 ranked man coming off of a knockout in the 5th round over Ricky Simone in Song Yadong, taking on Chris Gutierrez, who's ranked number 14 in the division. This is going to be a phenomenal main event and a really, really slept on main event, in my opinion, because I think it's going to be action from start to finish. And then in the co-main event of the evening, you have a fight that came together on pretty short notice between a former light heavyweight title challenger, a man coming off a win over Ryan Superman Spann, in the number 8 ranked light heavyweight Anthony Lionheart Smith, taking on the number 11 ranked light heavyweight on a huge win streak with crazy knockout power in the number 11 ranked Khalil Rountree Jr. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, everybody. I'm sure this sounds a little bit better than how things have sounded lately, because the last few podcasts I've had to record on my phone. But we're back in business, back on the original setup, and it should sound a lot better for most of the listeners this week. And I'm expecting to come back swinging and come back with a vengeance after that terrible card we had last week. I don't even want to talk about that card. It was a great card from start to finish. I mean, almost every fight on the card was a finish. I think 9 or 10 out of 12, either 10 out of 12 or 9 out of 12 fights were a finish in that regard. And man, you had back-to-back slam knockouts with Cody Brundage and Drakkar Klose. I mean, just crazy card from the beginning until the end. But, breaking this card down, I think this is a very solid fight card. I think it's just a lot of names that people aren't extremely familiar with. But the main event between Song Yadong and Chris Gutierrez is a banger of a matchup. It's a really, really solid fight. It's going to be very technical, and it's going to be the finesse and point fighting along with the calf kicks of Gutierrez against the fast hands, crisp boxing, and more improved wrestling and takedown offense from the Kung Fu Kid in Song Yadong. We're going to kick it off. We're not going to break down every fight. We are going to skip Rayanne, Amanda, and Talita Alencar. I'll give a quick rundown real quick. I like Alencar's jiu-jitsu, her takedowns, her aggressiveness, the ability to grab submissions and work for submissions. But the longer the fights go, she does tend to slow down. And I think later in the second and in the third, that's where Rayanne Amanda is going to be able to take over. She is the better striker. She has more experience on the feet. And I think early, it's Alencar with the takedowns, the top pressure, and the potential submission threat. And late, it's probably going to be Rayanne Amanda if Alencar slows down and starts to gas. But quick prediction, I'll just go Talita Alencar via first round submission. But going into the next fight in the flyweight division, you have the prospect of the division at a 5-1 favorite in Tatsuro Taira taking on Carlos Hernandez. This is a really solid matchup. I think this is a decent step up in competition for a fighter like Taira, who really needs that step up. He took on that short notice fight with Edgar Chairez and got put in some bad positions. I mean, he got dropped with a big left hook by Chairez, almost got caught in a guillotine at the end of the third round. I mean, it was mounted. It was locked in. If there was 15 more seconds in that fight, I think Chairez would have got that submission. I actually threw some money on Chairez in that spot, but that's besides the point. Looking at this fight, I look at the Carlos Hernandez versus Alan Nascimento, who was also supposed to fight on this card. I believe he was supposed to take on I forgot. I can't think of his name. Forgive me, but he was supposed to compete on this card. And, looking at this from, you know what? I think it was against the Tim Elliott stepped in with. Sumudaerji. He was supposed to take on Sumudaerji. But looking at this one, let's be honest and go back to this fight real quick. Carlos Hernandez is going to be the better striker. He's going to have the better boxing. He uses his jab very well. He has a good left hook. He puts his combinations together well. And the one thing I like about him is that he's always on his bicycle. He's always moving. He moves left and right. He moves in and out. And he's very aware of the counters coming back on the feet. The only thing is, I don't think Taira's going to play around on the feet for too long. I think he's going to be able to take down Hernandez. And I think once he takes him down, Hernandez does have a good get-up game. He can work, against the fence and work his way back up to the feet. But I feel like against a fighter who's as experienced as Taira in the grappling, the minute he gets up, he's going to give up his back by turning in the wrong direction. And that's just not a good position. That's not where you want to be. Now, late in the fight, in round 3, midpoint of the second and into the third, I think that's where Hernandez can take over. If he's able to continue to work his way back up to the feet, if he's able to create scrambles, if he's able to keep it in that boxing range or keep it at a distance where Taira can't tie him up and work it on to the ground, Carlos Hernandez is the much better striker in this matchup. He's going to be able to put his combinations together. He's going to use his jab well. He has good kicks to the body, a decent low kick, but really the bread and butter is in his boxing and his counter ability and his ability to put his punches together. I just don't think we're going to see much of that in this fight against Taira because I think the wrestling, the takedowns, the top pressure, we've seen Hernandez get submitted before and, against a fighter in Nascimento who I don't think is the caliber of grappler that Taira is. I think Taira is just going to be able to get him on the ground, get into that half guard, work to the full mount, allow Hernandez to give up his back and lock up a rear naked choke. Now, Taira has gotten arm bars. He's gotten a rear naked chokes. He goes for the Von Flu if the opponent tries to threaten with the guillotine. I do think Hernandez is 100% live for as long as this fight stays on the feet. I just don't think it stays on the feet for very long. I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira via a second round rear naked choke submission. Like I said, I just think the grappling is night and day. And although I think the striking is night and day, I would give Taira a better chance of hanging with Hernandez on the feet due to the takedown threat more than I would give Hernandez a chance to hang with Taira on the ground. So give me Taira, second round rear naked choke submission. And yeah, we'll move on to the next one. Luana Santos and Stephanie Egger. I'm going to be honest, I do not understand the love for Stephanie Egger in this fight. I really don't. I know she's an underdog. I know people like to play with the underdog odds, but we're not going for odds this week. We're going for, real breakdowns and technical analysis of these fights. And I do think that Egger is going to have the wrestling advantage. She has good throws, good head and arm throws. She's actually very good with her judo. And then that's most of the time the way she gets those takedowns. It's not real double legs, single legs. It's tying up in the clinch and then being able to toss the opponent with the head and arm. The only thing is, I don't think Egger is confident on the feet at all. I don't think that she likes to stay on the feet. I don't think she likes to exchange with people. I don't think she likes to strike. And I don't think she's going to be able to strike with a fighter in Luana Santos. I picked Santos in the fight against Juliana Miller, and I believe she was a pretty big underdog. It might have been even, but I know the under 2.5 was a decent sized underdog ticket. And that cashed because Luana Santos can find that right hand. It doesn't look pretty. It's not the most technical shot, but she'll find a way to land that overhand right over and over and over again. Whether it's winging, whether it's looping, whether it's an overhand, she'll find the pathway to land that shot. Now, I think that she can do that against Egger because, like I said, I just don't see Egger. She's not confident enough and she's not comfortable enough on the feet. The takedowns are probably going to be there, but I think the more damaging shots come from Santos. I think that right hand's going to land. I think the more she lands on Egger, the more she's going to push her back and start to slow her down. And, records are deceiving, but Egger is 8-4 in her career. You have a 6-1 fighter in Luana Santos. I have to go with the fighter who's been more consistent. Now, at a UFC level, I think Egger's been more consistent, but I would almost be willing to say that Luana Santos' UFC debut is more impressive than almost any win that Egger's got in her entire career. Now, she's fought really solid competition. She fought Mayra Bueno Silva. She fought Irene Alexieva, got submitted in the first round with that knee bar. But, she is a solid competitor. There's been some other solid competition that she's fought as well. Let's see. View fight history. She fought Eileen Perez and was able to get a round 2 submission. And Perez is a very solid grappler, so that just shows how good her judo, top pressure, and submission game is. But aside from that, I'm really going to be honest here. I just think it's Luana Santos' fight. Like, she has a win over Jessica Rose Clark, who, although she's a good-looking girl, she's just not UFC level. She has a win over, I believe, Shauna Young, who's also not UFC level. She lost to Tracy Cortez via decision. So, losses to Cortez, Mayra Bueno Silva, those are good losses because those are very solid contenders, or at least, up and coming contenders in the division. But for the most part, I think Luana Santos is the more dangerous girl. I think she has more power. I think she's more dangerous. And I think she's going to have the bigger fight altering moments than a girl like Egger. Yeah, if Egger can get the takedowns, if she can continue to take her down and get to the top position, then 100% Egger's probably going to win because she'll be able to wear down Santos. But I think Santos is going to be able to land a big shot, going to hurt Stephanie Egger, and is going to finish her by TKO in the second round. I think that she's going to be able to just walk her down. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go first round. We'll go first round TKO for Luana Santos. I like this girl. Although she's not the most technical, although everything she does isn't pretty, she finds that right hand, and I think she's going to find it on a girl like Egger, who, like I said, doesn't like to get hit. So give me first round TKO for Luana Santos. Up next, we're going to talk about the lightweight fight between Steve Garcia and Melquizael Costa. Mel Costa and Garcia, we already broke this down on the last prediction. I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Garcia has big power. He walks forward. He finds that right hand. He's able to find a left hook. He has decent technical striking on the feet, but he's just not durable enough for me, man. This is a guy who I probably would fade every time out because when you touch his chin, he's going to wobble. He's going to get hurt. Now, he can come back, but I don't think he comes back against a fighter who's as technical and as crisp as Melquizael Costa. I think Costa's left kick to the body, the straight left hand, the right hooks, the head kicks. I think the body work and the left kick from southpaw is just going to tear up Steve Garcia. I mean, he's going to have to watch out for a kick catch and a strike coming back with that big right hand and a potential left hook on the retreat, because the left hook and the right hand of Garcia is very, very powerful. And he did beat Shailan Nerdambike, which I don't think anybody ever would have expected, because I thought Shailan was going to be an up-and-coming prospect in that division. He also knocked out Chase Hooper, who we just saw look very good in his last outing. So you can't 100% count out a fighter like Steve Garcia, but at the same time, Garcia is just, he's too fidgety for me, man. He's too fragile in terms of his ability to take shots. And I think Costa is the better grappler. I think he has better jiu-jitsu. And I also think he's more technical on the feet to where he's going to be able to land the shots against Garcia without Garcia being able to catch him. Now, Garcia's always live for that big overhand right. He's always live for a big shot that can hurt Melquizael Costa. I'm not discounting that at all, but I do think Costa's going to be the slicker, quicker, and cleaner fighter, and I think he's going to find that chin of Garcia before Garcia can find his chin. He's going to find it with a big left head kick, a straight left hand. I actually think I'm going to go with a head kick. I think he starts hurting him to the body, then he feints, changes levels, and goes up top to the head, drops him, jumps on him, and gets him out of there. I'm going to go Melquizael Costa via second round TKO. I could see it being a club and sub where he drops him and then submits him, but I'm going to go with a second round TKO. I think he drops him with a head kick after working his body, and then he's able to get him out of there. So give me Melq Costa second round TKO. All right, and now we move on to the next fight up in the flyweight division between HyunSung Park taking on Shannon Ross. HyunSung Park was a winner of the Road to the UFC series. And the one thing I don't like about him, I'm going to start off with a negative, is that he gets hurt. He gets clipped on the chin. He gets hurt. His defense is not the best, but this guy is undefeated. He's 8-0. Shannon Ross, 13-8. No wins inside the UFC. At least I think that's the case. I might be wrong, but let me see. We're going to pull that up really quick. Let's go Shannon Ross. So he lost his last fight via first round KO in 17 seconds. Before that, he got knocked out in 59 seconds. And he lost the fight on the Contender Series, I believe, but it was back and forth. And he was surviving until eventually he just got put down. So the one thing we know from Ross is, from what I've seen, even though it hasn't been too much, he does move pretty well. Good in and out movement, good lateral movement, but he just doesn't have a chin. I feel like it's kind of a similar case with Steve Garcia, where like you catch him on the chin and you're probably going to put him down. But we know with HyunSung Park, he doesn't have a good chin either. I mean, we've seen him get dropped. We've seen him get rocked. Now he does come back. He is undefeated. He's never tasted defeat. So in this case, I would probably have to side with the undefeated fighter. And I know like you're looking at the odds and Shannon Ross is like a 4-1 underdog. And like, would I tell you to bet on him? No. But if you're looking to put money on any fighter, I mean, I guess you could take a shot on the dog, but I would just stay away from this fight, honestly, because I don't see Shannon Ross winning. I really don't. And I think HyunSung Park, he's decent on the feet. He uses good low kicks, good ability to move. He measures with his lead hand. He moves in and out. He has good takedowns, good wrestling. He'll go for submissions. He'll take your back, go for chokes. He can come back from adversity. That's the one thing I do like, is that every time we've seen Shannon Ross have adversity, he gets finished and gets put out, except on the Contender Series where he came back, but eventually he just did get I think he got finished with a big shot and eventually face planted, but he was getting hit a lot and hurt by Vinicius Salvador on the Contender Series. And we saw that Salvador's good, but he's not the greatest either. So I think that's more of a knock on Shannon Ross. Like, yeah, he survived, but at the same time, Salvador hasn't had the best UFC career so far. So I'm going to go with HyunSung Park. I'm going to go with Park via a second round TKO. You know what? Yeah, I'll go second round. I think Shannon Ross will survive. I think he'll make it out of the first round, and that might make people want to live bet on Shannon Ross, being like, okay, he survived, like he'll slow down this Park kid. But I just don't think that happens, man. I think you got 8-0, 13-8, and records aren't everything, but when I see a guy get hurt and knocked out as much as Shannon Ross, I think HyunSung Park just has more to offer. He's undefeated. He's coming in with a lot of confidence. I wouldn't be supremely confident in betting the side of Park, though. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't even touch HyunSung Park. I would probably play under 2.5. Fight doesn't go to decision, but I am going to go with HyunSung Park to win. I just think he has more weapons. I think he's more well-rounded. And basically the biggest factor is that I've seen him come back from adversity where when Shannon Ross gets hurt, I mean, it's kind of over at that point. He turtles up and he gets finished. So give me HyunSung Park to win via second round TKO. I do think he makes it out of the first round, but eventually I think he catches him with a big shot, hurts him. And it could be a submission, like a club and sub, where he hurts him and then jumps on his back and chokes him. But I'll go with a second round TKO for HyunSung Park. All right, moving on. We have the prelim headliner between Song Kenan and Kevin Jousset. Jousset and Song Kenan is a good fight. It's very difficult to break down. I would give the striking advantage to Song Kenan. He's very good at finding openings. I mean, we've seen him knock down Ian Gary with a beautiful left hook. We saw him beat Rolando Bedoya and, land the bigger, more impactful shots. But he has been knocked out. He got knocked out by Max Griffin. He's been knocked out a few times in his UFC career, but he's coming back. I think this is a fight where a lot of people are going to heavily back Jousset. And then there's going to be some people who back Kenan based on the underdog odds. But when I break down this fight, I see the clear grappling advantage on the side of Kevin Jousset. He's going to be able to get those takedowns. He's good from the top position. But at the same time, we've seen him get taken down in other fights. We've seen him get ground and pounded. We've seen him get caught in submissions. Almost got rear naked choked on the regional scene. I mean, it was very close. And then he stood up and the opponent broke the body triangle and gave up the submission, which I know he was trying to save his legs, but that was a terrible decision. If he kept that rear naked choke, he would have got it. Maybe he knew something that I didn't. I mean, he was in there, but that was a really bad fight IQ mistake because I feel like he would have got submitted there. But the grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling edge, that all goes to Kevin Jousset. Song Kenan is going to be the cleaner striker, in my opinion. Jousset has a good jab. He's very long, tall, rangy for the division. He lands good low kicks, a good jab. He's got a very, Izzy. I won't say he's Izzy in terms of skill set, but the city kickboxing style of like jab, low kick, feint, 1-2, feint, body kick, slip, try to come back on counters. He has a good counter left hook. I would not recommend standing and trading with Kenan, though. I think if you stand and trade with Kenan, like we've seen him get hurt, we've seen him get clipped, but he has a good right hand. He sets up his right hand well. He uses his jab to measure. And I think if you get into a boxing match with Song Kenan, I think Song Kenan wins that fight more often than he loses it. I would say that if I'm Jousset, I would use the striking to get Kenan comfortable and then shoot on one of his counters and get the takedown, work from the top, half guard, go to the full mount, land the ground and pound, try to go for some submissions, and try to get him out of there as quickly as you can. I think the longer the fight goes, if Jousset can't get the takedowns, I think Song Kenan is going to be able to outpoint him and land the cleaner shots. He's going to be able to find that right hand. He's going to be able to use his jab to measure. And the longer the fight goes, I do think that favors a fighter like Kenan. But if I'm Kevin Jousset, I get into the striking early. I use that jab, the low kick, and then I eventually get him too comfortable and change levels and get the takedowns. He doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. He doesn't even have the best striking defense. He gets hit a lot And, like I said, we've seen him get clipped before. Originally, I was on the side of Song Kenan. I do think that he is live here because I think he is cleaner. I think he has the better counter strikes, but I think Jousset is the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I think he's going to be able to get those takedowns. I think he will be able to control Kenan, and I think we see him wrap up another submission in this matchup. I'm going to go Kevin Jousset to defeat Song Kenan via a second round rear naked choke submission. I would not be surprised if Kenan gets it done here. Like I said, he's clean. He's got very good boxing, good low kicks. He's got great counters, a good ability to read punches, and he has very good timing. I would say that's his best skill with finding that right hand. And, he's got a very good left hook as well. So if Jousset comes in and doesn't respect him, I could see Jousset getting clipped and knocked out. I would say Kenan wins this fight by landing a KO. I think if it goes to decision, if it's on the feet and it's a striking match that goes to decision, I think that favors Kenan. But I think we'll see Jousset mix up the wrestling and grappling because he has more weapons to offer in terms of his full mixed martial arts game. So I think he gets the takedowns, he gets the top control, and eventually Kenan gives up his back. So give me Kevin Jousset, second round rear naked choke submission. All right, now we move to the next fight up, and the first fight on the main card, apparently I can't speak, between Junyong Park, the Iron Turtle, taking on Andre Sergipano Muniz. This is a really solid matchup, man. I really like the matchmaking here. I do believe that Muniz should be the underdog. He's sitting at around plus 150, plus 145. I think Park is the rightful favorite. I really like the jab of Junyong Park, man. He uses his jab extremely well. He fences it in there. He's like a fencer. He just waits, pop, 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 and he uses the jab and the low kicks to kind of get you into a full sense of security. And once he starts to sense that you're slowing down, that's when the right hand comes. That's when the elbows come from the lead and the rear side. That win over Elliot Vs really showed me that he can handle adversity and come back and stay composed. That is something that Andre Muniz cannot do. Now, do I believe Andre Muniz is the better grappler? 100%. But we've seen him get finished by people who I wouldn't say are lesser grapplers in terms of MMA, but are considered to be and believed to be lesser grapplers on paper. Muniz is a world champion jiu-jitsu artist. He has great jiu-jitsu, great top pressure, great ability to look for submissions. I mean, he broke Jacare Souza's arm, but if he's not able to get off those takedowns, get off the top pressure, and find ways to get into a position he needs to be in and rest until he can find his openings, he's going to slow down and he's going to start to break. Now, Muniz is a decent striker, actually. His striking has gotten better the longer that his career has gone on in the UFC. He has a very good jab. He finds openings for the left hand. And I would say the best strike from him, besides his jab, would be his left head kick and his left kick to the body. I think we're going to see him looking for the head kick a lot on Junyong Park. I think we're going to see him look for body kicks. And I think early on he is live if he's able to get the takedowns, if he's able to work his way to the back of Junyong Park. I do think that Muniz can submit a guy like Park. And like I said, his striking has gotten him better. He's more composed on the feet, good jab, good left kick, good 1-2s. And, he's not completely out of water. He's not a fish out of water on the feet like, say, a Rodolfo Vieira was early in his UFC career. Very talented grappler, but didn't want to stay on the feet. Muniz doesn't like to get hit, though. That's one thing I do notice. He has good striking, good defense, good movement, good ability to land that kick from the rear side when he's in southpaw. But if he starts to have to handle adversity, that's where he's going to break. And that's what I think Park does. I think Junyong Park is going to break Andre Muniz the longer this fight goes. He's very composed. He starts off slow. He finds his openings, jabs, uses the jab as like the litmus test to find out where you're at. And once that jab continues to land, then he can set up the power shot. He's basically stunning you with the sniper. Bang, bang, bang. He's finding you with the sniper rifle. Bam. Moving, bop, moving, bop, moving, bop, bop. And then he finds that right hand and boom, lands that machine gun. Good elbows from the lead and rear side. I mean, he dropped Elliot Vs with a big overhand right elbow and then a left elbow from the lead side, which slumped him. And then he jumped on him and got a submission. I think we're going to get a club and sub from Junyong Park. We've seen Muniz, even though he's a very solid grappler, he can get submitted once he gets tired. You know, that's what happens with grapplers. Look at Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Adolfo Vieira. The longer the fights go, when they start to slow down, when they start to get out of their game and they're starting to get tired and their game doesn't work, they open themselves up for submissions. Same with Brendan Allen and Paul Craig, but that was a little bit different because Allen's a very, very talented grappler in his own right. I think Junyong Park has to survive that first round. There is potential for a first round submission from Andre Muniz. There's potential for a first round armbar, first round rear naked choke. But the longer the fight goes, that jab's going to start to work, which is going to open up the pathway for the right hand from Park. He's going to start to outstrike him. Muniz is going to shoot a bad shot. He's going to get ground and pounded, and he's going to get choked. So give me Junyong Park to defeat Andre Muniz via second round submission with that rear naked choke. I could see a TKO as well from the back mount, from the mount, but I'm going to go with the second round rear naked choke submission for Junyong Park. Up next, we move to the bantamweight division. This was originally, it's a fight between two flyweights. We've got the number 11 ranked Tim Elliott coming back off that third round submission to, to Muhammad Mokaev. That was a fight where apparently on the scorecards, Tim Elliott was up. I didn't think that he should have been up. I thought Mokaev was winning that fight. I know he did almost get caught in a submission. He slammed his way out of it, or I think Mokaev slammed Elliott out of the submission. But, looking at this fight from a stylistic perspective, I think the striking 100% goes to Sumudaerji, but the grappling goes to Tim Elliott. Mudarji is going to be able to find that right hand. He has good lead and rear elbows, a good jab. He's very fast, good movement. But the longer the fights go, I feel like the cardio edge, the wrestling edge, the grappling, that all goes to Tim Elliott, man. You saw what he did to Victor Altamirano, where he was able to just continually take him down, out-wrestle him, ground and pound him, get him on the floor. And he's going to be able to take down Sumudaerji. He's going to have the better top pressure. He's going to be able to break him if he starts to get that wrestling going. And I do think that he's very live to do so in this matchup. On the feet, Sumudaerji should be able to piece up Tim Elliott. He has a good right hand, good left hook, good elbows, good knees. You watch the fight with Matt Schnell, one of the craziest flyweight fights in the history of the UFC. He was catching him with everything, hurting him, stunning him, rocking him with the kitchen sink, but he didn't finish him. And then Matt Schnell was able to come back, ground and pound him, and eventually choke him unconscious. I think that this is a fight that I wouldn't necessarily recommend a bet on because I think it's a very, very volatile matchup where Sumudaerji could catch Tim Elliott with a big shot, hurt him, and knock him out. But we don't see Tim Elliott get knocked out very often. We've seen him get hurt, but we don't really see him get finished too often. He's usually able to grind it out, come forward, get those takedowns, wrestling, and, just be able to grind out these opponents and grind out these guys who can't embrace the grind quite like a Tim Elliott. And I kind of see a similar situation here where Elliott's going to have a tough first round, but he's going to find those takedowns. He's going to get that wrestling. He's going to be able to take down Mudarji, and I don't think Sumudaerji is going to be able to work his way back up to the feet. I really think the wrestling and grappling of Tim Elliott is going to be a big, big weapon in this fight. Mudarji's live on the feet. He's live in the boxing range. He's live with his kicking, live with strikes off the break in the clinch. And I know Tim Elliott is taking this on short notice, but it's not too far off from his last fight with Mokaev. I feel like he's still going to be in shape and ready to go. I think based on short notice, the short notice aspect, you got a number 11 versus number 12. A lot of people are going to go with Sumudaerji. It's a very tough fight to pick for me. I don't really know who I want to go with. I don't know, man. This is tough. This is a tough fight because if it's on the feet, Mudarji wins. If it's in the grappling and the wrestling and the takedowns and the pressure, then Tim Elliott wins that fight. Let's see what Sumudaerji's takedown defense stat is. Sumudaerji stats. Let's see. 66% takedown defense, 54% striking accuracy. Let's see Tim Elliott. He's got a 47% takedown accuracy, 59% takedown defense. Striking defense, 56%. Sumudaerji gets hit more than that, 62%. I'll go with Sumudaerji. I'll go with Mudaerji. I feel like I should go with Tim Elliott. I really do. But the short notice bout, the power, the danger factor that Mudaerji has on the feet, I'm going to go with Mudaerji to catch Tim Elliott early, hurt him, and get him out of there. Give me Sumudaerji round 1 TKO, the Tibetan Eagle. I mean, I could see Tim Elliott wrestling him, grinding him out, taking him down, and winning it that way. But I'm still going to side with Mudaerji based on the short notice factor. Yeah, give me Sumudaerji, second round TKO. I think he finds the chin of Tim Elliott, hurts him, and then jumps on him and swarms him. I just don't really love the short notice factor for Elliott. So yeah, give me the Tibetan Eagle, second round TKO, but not a pick I'm supremely confident in. I could easily see Elliott out wrestling him, grinding him out, and finding a submission late in the fight. Up next in the lightweight division, the feature bout between Nasrat Haqparast and Jamie Mullarkey. This is a tough matchup. It's a very close fight, and I think it's a fight where a lot of people are counting out Jamie Mullarkey. We've seen him get clipped. We've seen him get hurt. We saw him get knocked out by Muhammad Naimov. We've seen him get dropped by Brad Riddell. They went back and forth in a war. We saw him get clipped and rocked multiple times by Michael Johnson and then find a way to come back. I lost my train of thought. Jamie Mullarkey has that dog in him. He has that dog where even if you're breaking him, even if you're slowing him down, the longer the fight goes, like he can kind of work his way back into it. Nasrat Haqparast is going to be the quicker, slicker fighter on the feet, but we've also seen him get clipped and get dropped and get knocked out. We saw him get pieced up by Bobby Green. We saw him get knocked out by Drew Dober back at UFC 246. I think Haqparast is going to be the more well-rounded fighter. He's going to have the better wrestling. He's going to have the bigger power on the feet. I think the volume striking comes more from the side of Mullarkey. He's going to be able to land more shots. He has a good roll underneath, come back with the left hook, a really good slip roll. He's a good bob and weaver coming back with the left hook to the body, the left hook up top to the head, the right hand. If he hurts you, he smells blood in the water. He can really put it on you. I think that the higher finishing upside would probably come from Haqparast just because we've seen Mullarkey get clipped. We've seen him get dropped. We've seen him get TKO'd a few times in his career. 15-5 on the side of Haqparast, 17-6 on the side of Jamie Mullarkey. I think it's a very, very tough matchup to call. Honestly, I feel like Mullarkey, like I said, has more volume. He's probably the cleaner striker, but the power in that left hand from Haqparast, sometimes you can fall in love with the power and get outgunned in the overall, volume aspect of the fight. But I'm going to go with Haqparast here. I think that he's more powerful. I think he has a more well-rounded game where he might be able to resort to the wrestling more than Mullarkey would be able to, even though Mullarkey does have offensive wrestling, and we've seen him develop that wrestling later on in his career. But I do think that Haqparast is going to be able to land the bigger, more impactful shots. He might get out-volumed, but the damage, the bigger shots, that's all going to come from Haqparast, and I do think he can use that wrestling the longer the fight goes. I mean, if you look at the grappling stats, 78% takedown defense to 76% takedown defense for Mullarkey. Mullarkey shoots about 3 takedowns per 15-minute fight. I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to get those takedowns against a guy like Haqparast. Haqparast has a 64% striking accuracy. He lands more per minute. He takes slightly more per minute. So he dishes out more, but he also takes more shots. I just think the more durable fighter's Haqparast. I think that he can take more than Mullarkey if it does get into that war. But I wouldn't be surprised if Mullarkey was able to melt him later in the second and into the third round. But I think the power, the wrestling, the overall technical striking on the feet of Haqparast is going to be able to get him the win here. I'm going to go with Nasrat Haqparast to defeat Jamie Mullarkey via a second round TKO. I could see it with ground and pound, but I think he just is able to land the bigger, more impactful shots and hurt Mullarkey before Mullarkey's able to really drown him with that volume. So give me Nasrat Haqparast, second round TKO. And now we move to the co-main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division. Short notice bout between former light heavyweight title challenger coming off a win over Ryan Superman Spann and Anthony Lionheart Smith taking on Khalil Rountree Jr., who's ranked number 11 in the division. Rountree's on a tear, man. He's coming off that knockout over Khalil, or not over Khalil Rountree, over Chris Dawkins. Prior to that, split decision win over Dustin Jacoby. I thought Jacoby won that. I thought that was a little bit of a robbery. I thought Jacoby definitely won that fight. And then that second round TKO with that vicious body kick against Karl Roberson. Before that, he had that second round knockout over Modestas Bukauskas. And his last loss came January 23rd of 2021, where he lost the decision to Marcin Prachnio. Listen, I think on the feet, this is Rountree's fight to win. He's going to have the bigger power. He's going to be able to find the home for that left hand against a fighter in Smith who, in my opinion, he looked decent in his last fight against Spann, but at the same time, I think this is a fighter who just doesn't really have it anymore. And I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. I just think that when he gets hurt, when he gets rocked, he's going to kind of start to quiver and start to get out and start to kind of get in his own head. And I wouldn't say quit on himself, but once he starts to get hurt, he doesn't seem to have that ability to come back anymore like he used to early in his career. Rountree's going to be at a grappling disadvantage, but I don't even necessarily think Smith is going to be able to get into the range to be able to grapple a fighter like Rountree. Now, I will say that if Smith can get those takedowns going, he will be able to out-grapple and probably submit Khalil Rountree. But you look at his overall stats, he has a 56% takedown defense. Smith only has a 28% takedown accuracy, but the smart thing for Smith to do would be to use that jab, try to use those calf kicks for a little bit, and then just try to shoot, tie up with Rountree, push him against the cage, get the takedowns. But this seems like a Khalil Rountree spot to me. I think that I'm a little surprised he's a 2-1 favorite because of the competition level, the experience that Smith has had. But at the same time, I don't think Smith looked that great in his fight against Ryan Spann. I thought he barely squeaked that one out. I mean, I'm not saying I thought he lost and it was a robbery, but I thought it was close enough to where Ryan Spann could have got the nod there. But it was a close fight. I think Smith is decent, but I think the power of Rountree, the power in the kicks, I think the inside low kicks of Khalil on Smith is going to be a big problem unless he can time it and shoot a takedown at the same time and get him on the ground. If Smith doesn't get this to the ground, he's getting knocked out. If Smith gets it on the ground and gets to the top position, then I would say Smith probably wins with a rear naked choke submission. But if he can't get it to the ground, man, Khalil's going to punch a hole through his face and kick a hole through his body, chop up his legs. I just think the power, the physicality, the streak that Khalil's on right now, like I wouldn't be surprised if Smith got the takedown, controlled him, and submitted him. But at the same time, I think Rountree is going to find that left hand, find that counter right hook. I think he's going to hurt Smith early. He's going to hurt him often. He's going to rip those shots to the body with a big body kick. I think he's going to catch him with that check right hook and fold him, kind of like the Karl Roberson finish, and he's going to jump on him and get him out of there. So I'm going to go Khalil Rountree Jr. via first-round knockout over Anthony Lionheart Smith. Like I said, if Smith can get the grappling, if he can get behind his jab, he has a very good jab and follows up with a good right hand behind it. But the best weapons for Anthony Smith would be to shoot those takedowns, get to the top position on the ground and pound, and look for a sub. I just don't think he gets that against Rountree. He's definitely capable, and Rountree doesn't have the best takedown defense. Opponents basically get 1 out of every 2 takedowns that they shoot or close to that. So I would take Khalil Rountree here. Smith is live for a sub, but I'm going to go with Khalil Rountree Jr. first round TKO. I think he catches him with that counter right hook, hurts him, and gets him out of there. I just don't think Smith has it anymore, and I'm a big Smith fan. I just don't think this is a good fight for him, especially on short notice. So Khalil Rountree Jr., first round TKO. All right, up next in the bantamweight division, the main event, Chris Gutierrez taking on Song Yadong. This is a very tough fight because if it's a point fighting style of matchup, then Gutierrez is going to win that one. You have an orthodox fighter in Song Yadong with a big left hand or a big power right hand, beautiful overhand right, beautiful straight right, beautiful lead uppercuts, extremely quick with his combinations, his boxing, good kicking. We saw him use offensive wrestling in his last fight against Corey Sandhagen. That wasn't his last fight. His second to last fight was against Corey Sandhagen. And honestly, I thought that Sandhagen fight was very close. I thought it was 2-2 going into the 5th before they stopped it with that the doctor stoppage due to the cut. But I think Song Yadong is on a different level than Gutierrez. Now, the one thing you got to worry about is the inside low kicks of Gutierrez. He chops those low kicks hard, and it's similar to Jonathan Martinez and Adrian Yanez. Like, those low kicks are going to be coming early. They're going to be coming often, and the inside low kicks can chew up Song Yadong. But the one thing I do remember is that he was able to counter an inside low kick from a fighter early in his UFC career where he got one of his most vicious knockouts ever. It was Alejandro Perez, I believe, countered that inside kick and bombed away with the right hand and knocked him out. I think the speed and power in the boxing combinations, along with the footwork and finesse of Song Yadong, is going to be too much for Gutierrez. I mean, we saw in the fight against Pedro Munoz, that was a fight where I thought Gutierrez was just going to pick him apart, move around, point fight, chop his low kicks, chop his body kicks, use the jab, jab, feint, inside low kick. And we saw him do that in his last fight against Alatong Lee. And that was a fight where I picked against Gutierrez again, just like I'm going to be doing here. But I feel like Alatong Lee almost landed that right hand multiple times. He caught him a few times, but he wasn't really able to cut off Gutierrez and find the openings. I think that Song Yadong can do it. He was finding Corey Sandhagen, and I think Corey's a lot more fleet-footed. He's a lot better with his movement than Gutierrez, and I think he's going to be able to find that chin of Gutierrez and send him into orbit with a big right hand. I think that the power, the speed, the technical ability, there's guys who have power, there's guys who have speed, there's guys who have power and speed, but usually if they're fast and powerful, they lack a little bit in the technical aspect. So that is something that you have to worry about. But with Song Yadong, it's not that way. I mean, even when he's quick, when he's fast, when he puts his combinations together, he still has heavy technical ability. Not heavy technical ability, but he still stays technical when he throws those shots. And I do think that in this matchup, he's going to be the faster fighter. He's going to be the more well-rounded fighter. He's going to be the more powerful fighter. And I don't think Chris Gutierrez is going to be able to win a point fighting style of matchup. I think Song Yadong is going to be able to, he's going to time the counter with a jab as Gutierrez tries to inside low kick him. And he's going to time the right hand off that inside low kick. And I think he waits, finds a big right hand in the second round against Gutierrez as he throws that inside kick, and I think he knocks him out cold. I'm going to go with Song Yadong, the Kung Fu Kid, to defeat Chris Gutierrez via second round knockout. I think he times that inside low kick with a big right hand, a straight right hand, and overhand right, drops Gutierrez and gets him out of there. I just don't think Gutierrez is going to be able to point fight his way to a victory. There is a possibility he stops him with those low kicks because he is one of the best low kickers in the game alongside his teammate Jonathan Martinez. But I think Song Yadong is going to be ready for it. I think he's going to use a lot of movement to where Gutierrez won't be able to cut him down as easily as he does other fighters. And I think the counter boxing is going to be too fast for Gutierrez to really develop good counters too. So give me Song Yadong, second round knockout. I think he finds that right hand off the inside low kick of Gutierrez and knocks him out. All right, that's going to be it for my UFC Vegas 83 UFC Fight Night Song versus Gutierrez preview, predictions, and breakdown. This podcast will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights this weekend. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is the same name as the podcast in the Touch 'Em Up podcast. Be sure to follow me on any social media. Be sure to subscribe to me on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, you can get the Touch 'Em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.